Good day to everyone. I am humbled and honored to be part of this masterclass. And before I go to my talk, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who made this possible. IWPR, C4, and Kini Academy. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak in front of my fellow journalists. Today, I will provide the context on the state of travel as well as travel recovery in Southeast Asia. Then later, we will be hearing from industry experts to give us a laser-focused view on their specific topics. Thus, I encourage everyone to post any questions you may have, and we will entertain a few of them at the end of each session, as well as on a separate Q&A portion we have at the end. I hope that by the end of this masterclass, we will have a deeper understanding on travel and tourism in post-COVID-19. Okay, I would like to start my session by showing you these photos of a typical day in Bali International Airport or Ngurah Rai Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in Southeast Asia. Feels nostalgic, isn't it? When was the last time you have been in an airport going on a holiday? I've been in Bali 3 times in 2019, just before the pandemic, and I really cannot get used to how busy the airport is. Probably who here have been to Bali, and how long did it take you to get to this area where people, probably from your hotel, holding up a sign with your name on it? It takes me 30 to 45 minutes just to get through the arrivals, which is quite a while, especially compared to Singapore, where you can breeze in through the check-ins. Bali is always bustling with people. Tourists from all over the world fly to Bali to experience the unique culture, ride the waves, or just be one with nature. And if I knew that that would be the last time that I will be in Bali for a while, I should probably have spent a few more days, even if it cost me a month's salary. So of course, Bali, or the island of the gods, is a prime destination in Southeast Asia. In 2019, Bali welcomed 6.3 million foreign tourists, just the island itself. I remember attending travel conferences 2 years ago, and the biggest topic on our industry at that time was over tourism. There's just so many tourists. Travel executives are butting heads on how to mitigate its impacts and on destinations and environment. Then, as if some god provided an immediate solution, like Thanos snapping his fingers, COVID-19 happened. The COVID-19 pandemic is a never before seen crisis that crippled the travel industry. It grounded planes, closed hotel doors, shut down borders, and left many prime Southeast Asian destinations deserted of tourists. And until now, most countries in the region are still closed for international tourism. Bali never saw their projected 7 million tourists in 2020. Their foreign arrivals dropped by a staggering 83%. And Bali is not alone in this situation. Many destinations in Southeast Asia that depended on tourism, like Phuket, Boracay, Palawan, Langkawi, and Phuket, were like ghost towns when tourists stopped coming. First, let's look at this graph right here from World Travel and Tourism Council, or WTTC. We can see the growth of tourism in Southeast Asia in the last 10 years, or the glory days of tourism. As you can see, the contribution of travel and tourism to the GDP in Southeast Asia grew steadily. That is why the whole industry was super high with their projections for 2020. I also simplified a table here from WTTC to show the contribution of tourism to the GDP as well as employment in every Southeast Asian country. But this data is from WTTC, which you can easily download from their website. Okay, so back to what I'm saying about 2020. As we all know, COVID derailed all plans, devoid all hope for tourism that year. Now, after more than a year with borders shut, many ASEAN countries are adamant to reopen, although there is still some risk in doing so. Why? Two things. Travel and tourism contribute greatly to nation's revenue or gross domestic product, meaning it brings money. And number two, it supported millions of jobs. Tourism is a lucrative billion-dollar industry in Southeast Asia. And we are not talking about a measly 1 or 2 billion here. In 2019, tourism contributed 393 billion US dollars to the total GDP in the region, which is equivalent to 12.1%. And the industry supports 42.3 million jobs. It is important to note that many destinations, like small provinces in Southeast Asia, are so dependent on tourism that it is their major industry supporting the people's livelihood. And shutting down tourism is like turning off the valve of one of the vital sources of revenue for many Southeast Asian destinations and leaving millions of people unemployed. Unfortunately, domestic travelers alone will not be able to bring the same amount of revenue that international tourism brings before the pandemic because for the past 10 years, prices of tourism products have adapted on the deep pockets of foreign tourists. I remember the tricycle fair in Boracay when I went there in 2018, when it reopened after being closed for 6 months, cost 125 pesos or $3. I mean, foreign tourists will not bat an eyelid for that, but that is way too high of the standard fare. Also, our photographer in Travel Daily is a Thai, and he said that Phuket is too expensive for locals, that they would rather go somewhere else. That is why countries are keen to reopen their borders to international travelers who have a higher purchasing power. However, this is easier said than done as several factors are at play so destinations can reopen safely. But because just in case you don't know, travel and tourism is a complex, interlinked industry. Okay, so let's all try to analyze those factors. The major concern with countries reopening is incoming tourists, especially those from places with high cases, may spike the local COVID-19 cases, and it may overwhelm the already burdened healthcare systems of countries. COVID-19 continues to evolve, and new and more contagious variants like the Delta variant from overseas enter through our borders. Think about this. Can you imagine how many people you meet, interact with, travel with, or simply pass by whenever you travel? Probably in the thousands, isn't it? There are thousands of opportunities for the virus to spread. Yeah, we know vaccination is key. And nations are working hard to ramp up their vaccination rate so they can go back to normal, whatever that means, soon. Thailand took a different approach. It prioritizes vaccination in Phuket with the help of businesses there so they can reopen. With Indonesia is also doing the same thing in Bali. But there is a challenge when it comes to procuring supplies since vaccine supplies is limited and everyone wants to get their hands on them. Meanwhile, millions of jobs, of tourism-related jobs, hang on the other side of the balance. And we are not only talking about airlines and their flight crews, big hotels and their staff. We also mean jobs in restaurants, transportation, spas, and stores that are all catering to tourists. Because without tourism, millions of people will have to find a new source of income. In Bali, I know I keep saying I keep giving examples about Bali. Furloughed workers went back to farming and fishing, and they are earning much less than before. I also want to, there is another factor that I want to talk about, which is the perspective of a traveler, which we are all. It seems that travel has become more expensive and much of a hassle, isn't it? We can no longer just get up and go wherever or whenever we want. We see additional costs introduced for several COVID testings, for deposit fees, getting medical insurance, and stay in hotels for quarantine for several days. I understand that this is all for us, for our safety and to prevent the spread of the virus. However, this may be too much for a common traveler. But where are we right now? After 15 months, we've been in a pandemic for more than a year now. I am doing travel reporting myself, and I am seeing hope, signs of hope in the travel industry. And I would say that now we are now on the path of recovery. We have seen our Western counterparts with higher vaccinations enabling people to travel freely in green countries or countries with low infection rate. Also, they are now able to hold major events in person, like the recent film festivals, VMAs, the Met Gala. In Southeast Asia, we are also seeing progress, like Singapore is slowly reopening for business travel as it is the business hub in the region, as well as the gateway to Asia. Um, they established green lanes with certain countries. Also, Singapore decided to live with COVID in the near future, treating it like a common flu. Malaysia piloted the travel bubble to Langkawi for fully vaccinated local travelers and is planning to reopen more destinations soon, which I am excited to learn more about later from one of our speakers. Thailand launched the Phuket Sandbox program in July, followed by Koh Samui Plus, allowing fully vaccinated tourists to travel without quarantine. Now, Thailand is planning the reopening of Bangkok and Hua Hin for fully vaxxed travelers later this year. These are all signs of travel coming back. Actually, I love hunting and writing this kind of stories. I call them my olive leaf stories, stories that give hope to the members of the industry who probably have COVID fatigue by now from all of the depressing news about travel. Full travel recovery may take some time, but I am positive that we'll get there. So I just want to bring this session back to the audience. So, what is the role of media in travel recovery? Well, our role in this is not to be ignored. We are the messenger of news, essentially. We inform the public of the latest COVID updates and the travel restrictions on where they can and cannot travel, the protocols that they must heed to. Your story could be that one push a person need to book that flight. We also ask head of governments and policymakers whether what they are doing is enough, by showing them the grievances of overworked healthcare workers and the plight of the hand-to-mouth tourism workers. Your article or your content may have the ability to overturn decisions and policies for the better. We may disagree on many things, but I think there is one thing that we can all agree. That is, everyone wants this whole pandemic to be over so we can all travel and experience what a busy airport feels like again. Thank you so much.